everybody, and welcome back to another Nextlander podcast. The video games continue to come out. Some video games even surprisingly coming out. Maybe not to some, but to me at least. Alex Navarro.
Yes.
Welcome to Video Game Tober.
I've never been surprised by a video game.
Surprise! It's your video game. It's a video game! Surprise!
I can always see him coming around the corner, man.
This isn't my video game. Brad Shoemaker. Surprise!
Surprise! Video games aren't the only things coming out.
Oh, what else is coming out?
If I hadn't lost the notification, I could tell you the full name. Oh, here it is. The test of the National Wireless Emergency Alert System.
Oh my gosh, that thing was so loud.
I'm kind of bummed. Normally, we would have started recording like 10 minutes before that, but we had a slight delay this morning.
Yeah.
Or we would have captured all of the magic live on air.
All the magic of 10 seconds of sort of unpleasant noise.
Oh my god,
so loud.
I knew it was coming, and I didn't know where my phone was. I think it was in my pocket, but it sounded like it was coming from under my desk, so I thought my UPS was like alerting me that things were about to catch on fire or something.
Mm-hmm.
So this will alert us to the end times?
Well, no,
Hopefully.
it'll alert us to the end times, but also it's now given us the 5G Marburg virus, so good luck with that.
Wait, which virus? Did you say
The
Marlboro?
5G Marburg virus, which is apparently
Marburg.
the latest fucking conspiracy theory thing of, hey, what's going to be the next big pandemic government designed, and it's Marburg virus.
Yeah, I never know how seriously to take like tweets and Reddit posts and stuff that are passed around these days, because plenty of people be playing.
Mm-hmm.
But I saw something going around on Twitter that somebody said their landlord was shutting off the power to their building all afternoon today.
Wait,
because they bought into all that shit, and they thought if the power was off, they wouldn't get the 5G virus.
okay, wait.
Yeah, you either do that or you put your phone in the microwave. It's one of the two things.
You guys are serious.
Yeah.
I'm not making this shit up.
You guys are serious
I'm making this shit up in the sense that none of this was really real, but it is a thing that apparently some people were getting up
I
in arms
thought you were
about.
doing a bit, and people are saying that they might get a virus because of the alert on the phone?
Again, just to establish the layers of skepticism here,
the
thing we are not making up or doing a bit about is that people are out there saying this shit.
Yes.
Like, that's the only thing we can say definitively is people are out there talking about Marburg viruses and 5G shit, specifically for people who are vaccinated. Like, it's like, oh, they implanted the chip when you got the vaccine.
Oh, and this is the trigger.
If you have the chip, this is the trigger. All we can say for sure is that people are saying these things. Whether they actually believe them or not is unknown.
Because there's a lot of layers on this onion. Who are the Alex, help me out here, or Brad now too. Who are the marks? Who's getting a work done? Who's
working themselves into a shoot?
Who was doing it for virality and then coming to believe it themselves? Who can say?
Oh man.
Be glad you missed all that, Vinny. Be glad that you are unaware of it, and I'm sorry that I've brought this into your life.
I'm gonna have to ask the nurse when I get my booster on Friday. What is it called? The Marburg?
The Marburg virus, which is a real virus. Like, it's a real thing that's existed for a long time. Just, it's not a virus that, has gone widespread in pandemic levels at any point. And I only really know of it because season 2 of the TV series Millennium ends on a Marburg outbreak.
I see. So it's like maybe a deadly virus that isn't in pandemic mode, but then the 5G will spread it into...
Or we already had it, and it was just laying dormant until the trigger went live, which also, again, is absolutely not how any of this shit works.
Oh my.
Uh-oh.
Oh my, this thing is serious.
Oh, the Marburg virus is a bad virus. Let me be absolutely clear about that.
World Health Organization says a fatality ratio of up to 88%.
That's a lot of percent.
Uh-huh.
But wait, okay. I don't want to get into...
No. We're already too far at this point.
Okay, but the higher the fatality rate, the worse it is for the virus because it doesn't have time to spread, right? I guess if it's a low small incubation rate and high fatality rate, right? It's better to have a long incubation and then kill you at the end of it, right? Is that what I've learned over the course of people talking about COVID?
I want to again emphasize that everything I know about this virus comes from season 2 of a second-tier Chris Carter show, but let me be absolutely clear. As far as I can tell from that show, based on the way season 2 ends and season 3 picks up, they think it's going to be a widespread kill everyone pandemic, and then when season 3 picks up, about 88 people died.
Okay. Well, that's what Brad said. 88%.
There you go.
But they just said 88 people. There are only 100 people in the world.
Yeah. There you go. And they're all in Seattle, apparently.
88%, 88 people, 88 miles per hour. What does it mean?
Oh my gosh. 888888. Look it up. It's the sign of...
It's a very auspicious number.
Time travel. Do you guys believe in hypnotism?
God, I thought you were about to ask me if I believed in something else way worse.
Do you believe in hypnotism?
Like, believe that people can be hypnotized?
Yeah, for real, hypnotized. Not a tranquil state of like meditative like bliss and like suggestion, like movie style hypnosis. I've got you under.
Do I think a hypnotist can make me think I'm a chicken?
Yeah, not you, a person.
I don't know, man. There's like, I understand that there are things like hypnosis that are used in like therapeutic practices that have some value and like are good at like maybe bringing, suppressed memories to the surface, that kind of thing. But if you're talking about like your average, like, hypnotist that you would see on a stage at some fucking lounge show or something, no, I think that's just power of suggestion more than anything else. I don't think that's actual hypnotism.
Brad?
Yeah, like if you're talking about like the vaudeville style of stage hypnosis, probably not. I can't speak to like a medical practice.
I've known people who have said that hypnosis got them to quit smoking. Like they went to a hypnotherapist and they got them to quit smoking. Like that level of suggestion implantation.
I mean, to me, it is not outside the realm of possibility, but it's never happened to me, and I have no real perception of like what it entails to actually do something like that.
Something about it that scares me, if it is true, like really scares me, because I feel like I would be very susceptible to suggestion and easily hypnotized, and so I want it to not really be true. But anyway, that reminded me of everybody just getting activated. Maybe we all got hypnotized by watching some bad Netflix show at some point. Everybody, Squid Game hypnotized us, and now we just all got it activated. You think this thing will malfunction in some spectacular way in the next 5 to 10 years? I feel like most things do. Yeah, somebody's going to abuse it or hack it or.
I mean, what thing?
The not the hypnosis or Squid
I thought
Game.
you meant like society.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, society's already malfunctioning.
That ship sailed already.
All right.
Yes.
No, the alert system.
Yeah, I mean, after Hawaii sent out an accidental, hey, there are nuclear missiles inbound alert.
While I was there!
Anything is possible.
Do you think that somebody gets a hold of this and we ever get some horrible, like massive dick pic spam on the alert services thing?
I mean, that's just a regular Tuesday online at this point. It doesn't matter how widespread it is. There's dick pics out there, man. You just got to be mindful.
I'm sure there's a story out there. I should go look it up. Sorry for my ignorance here, but I really hope there's like a 2 people on a key thing where they have to like turn your key, sir, to activate this. Like somebody in 2 parts of the country. Like, are you ready? Are you ready? And not just like some freaking Google spreadsheet with a time in it. That's like, you just type something into a field, not some CMS that some lowest bidder made, It's like, oh, it was supposed to be 12:01. I put it for 12 o'clock.
Oops.
Folks, we got a bunch of stuff to talk about today. We're going to talk video games, if you're interested in those. We got our hands on some Assassin's Creed, which is coming out on Friday, but it looks like the review embargo is today. So reviews are up already.
Which one?
Assassin's Creed 1. No, Assassin's Creed Mirage, which I will say just before we even get into everything, it starts, I guess they're in some anniversary. Is it 15 years of Assassin's Creed? Because
2007?
Yeah, it was 07, so they're past that now.
So when you start it up, it does this like kind of Assassin's Creed 15 something logo, and it just shows all the assassins, and there are so many assassins. They'll
let anyone to that group, man.
Holy cow. We've got that. We've got Forza. We've got a Cocoon. We've got Remnant 2 to talk about. Fights in tight spaces. Weapon of choice. I think we should start with all those games with a game that I have really enjoyed. Brad, I know you've played, and Alex, you've played as well.
Yeah.
Cocoon.
Yeah,
Cocoon.
Definitely.
Wilfred Brimley's puzzle game where you never get old, never die, never get sick.
That's definitely the most interesting thing to me this week. Nothing against the other games, but in terms of being a surprise.
No,
video games can't surprise. It's impossible.
Yes.
Brad,
so what's the pedigree? The pedigree is, I believe, is the lead gameplay designer of Inside and Limbo.
Yes, it's ex-Play Dead people, though it's not the same ex-Play Dead people that made that other game that came out. Was it Somerville?
Somerville was the other one, right? Yeah, I have never been 100% clear what happened. There seemed to be some kind of schism at Play Dead where multiple people left after Inside and went off to do their own things. And Cocoon is one of those.
This is it's Geometric. Geometric Interactive is the developer. Okay. And it's put out by Annapurna. Yeah, Cocoon is a trip.
It is. I find it to be extremely impressive. It's an overhead puzzle game. Actually, let me just back up. It feels like a successor to Limbo and Inside. It's not a side scroller.
Mm-hmm. No,
it's an overhead puzzle.
But the feel entirely. Of it has that kind of Inside vibe to it.
Absolute like tone and vibe and presentation in common with Inside. Like it's wordless. It's just like. Pretty much just like those games, you boot it up to a title screen, you hit a button, and you're just in it. They don't say anything. There's no dialogue, no text even on screen ever.
Ever.
You're just set loose. It's got the same like moody kind of vibes to it. I guess I would say it's much more colorful though.
Yeah,
definitely.
There is like a sense of menace in it at certain parts, but it really isn't like.
But it's not oppressive.
It's not oppressive. Yeah, yes, that's exactly the word I would use.
It does not have like the same like pitch black sense of humor or kind of macabre sensibilities of Inside.
Yeah, it's like a little a lightning bug.
Yeah, you're like a little bug guy. You're like you got little wings.
Yeah,
lightning bug, dragonfly wings, something like that.
Yeah,
and your wings flutter whenever you're standing on something you can interact with.
Yeah, it's like you said. There's no text. There's even no tutorial prompts or anything like that, but there's really not a lot of mechanical combinations of things you could do. It's kind of hold X or whatever your interact button is in certain spots.
I'm about halfway through it, and so far it has been a one-button game. Like it's literally analog stick and one button to play this game. Like it's very simple in terms of the controls. It's just how you're interacting with the environment. Which is very unusual. Like there are so many unusual, weird creative ideas in this thing, both visual design and puzzle design.
And the thing that's most striking to me, if you're interested in this, you should go check out a video. But in motion, the animation's great. It's very organic.
Yes. It is some of both. I know we've wheeled this trope out before. It is both some of the most environmental art and some of the best environmental art that I have seen. Like everything in the environment animates in really like interesting, fluid, bespoke ways. It's just there's so much of it. Like everywhere you go, there's some wild shit happening around you.
It's got a real biological computer world.
Yes.
But everything moves in these kind of very organic, not machine-like ways that are at times very disconcerting but beautiful.
Well, I mean, that's what they're going for, I think, is this idea of, evolved bugs and sort of a bug / like magical / technological society where it feels like you're kind of combing through the remnants of something that was, like ruins of a long established society, but it seems like it's all bug stuff.
Yeah, like
the tech has its kind of organic, buggy quality to it.
Yeah, like everything you see is like not everything, but a lot of what you're seeing is like seed-like or skeletal or like chitinous, like it's a bug exoskeleton. Like everything in the environment feels like it's made out of some organic thing or other kind of.
Yeah.
But also with kind of high technology. Like there's just like every little thing in this game, somebody puts so much thought into the visual design of.
Agreed.
And if you missed the name of the game, I'll just say it again because you might not have heard of it. It is Cocoon.
I don't know why. I mean, I've thought about this off and on over time in the last few years. I don't know why this one it hit me acutely that like naming video games these days is just a process of picking a noun or perhaps even a verb and seeing if anybody's got the trademark.
And if they have, just add the word origins or rising or something to the end.
Yes.
I think Destiny was the first one where when they announced that game, that IP, I was just like, all right, they're just picking words out of the dictionary at this point. Everything's got a copyright now.
But you know what? This one works because it totally is in keeping with the flavor of the game.
Yes, absolutely. You're not wrong. Anyway, I feel like we're almost kind of burying the lead here because the core mechanical puzzle solving conceit of this thing is maybe the actual most interesting, impressive thing about it, which is I think this is the best use of fast loading times I've seen since this era of fast loading times.
It's very good.
Which is you're essentially carrying these orbs around with you throughout the game, and each orb is also a world unto itself.
Mm-hmm.
And at various points, as the puzzle solving necessitates, you can put an orb down and go into it and explore that world again.
Yes.
You can go back, and puzzles like very quickly start crossing the boundaries between different worlds. You can also store one world within another. I haven't gotten to this point.
Yeah, within another.
I haven't quite gotten. I haven't gotten to that point yet, but I have 3 orbs now, and I assume there will be a point where I have all 3 of them nested. And like it's basically it's all but instantaneous to fly in and out of the worlds with this really impressive, like, kind of zooming in and out, motion blurry kind of effect.
Takes you a second, but like nothing. I mean,
you can tell they kind of preload they like pre-cache the load or whatever, because every time you go into a world, you have to like hold the button down for like 3 or 4 seconds. So it's like it's not instant, but it's close enough.
It's probably worth mentioning this is available on everything, so it's not just on PlayStation 5 or Xbox Series X. It is on Switch, on PC.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm playing on PC.
On PS4 even. Yeah.
Oh, I wonder what the Switch or PS4 ones are like.
Maybe you just got to hold that button down longer.
It might just take longer to get in and out.
I mean, these worlds are not... They're rich, but they're not complicated.
Yes.
Yeah. And I'll say the PC version is pretty snappy. Like, it really just kind of dives you right in there.
Yeah. That's what I'm playing on the PC.
Okay.
And it's
that's even more impressive than if this actually works on older platforms. I did not realize.
It's $25 as well. I think, Brad, you and I are both about halfway-ish, right?
I'm at 49%.
Okay. I didn't look at my exact percentage, but I've also got the 3 orbs. And did you get... So the orbs, in addition to being kind of environments, they're also... Each orb kind of gives you a power, almost like a Mega Man style-ish. And then when you carry the orb, you are able to use that power. So a lot of the puzzles are, which orb are you carrying? Or I need this orb in this spot. How do I get it here? What manipulation through the recursive orb world stuff do I have to do to get this orb here? That's one set of puzzles. The other one, there are 2 other big ones that stand out to me. One is you have to get these kind of, speaking of Destiny, these Destiny-like keys. What is the thing that's over your shoulder in Destiny?
Oh, it's like a little robot buddy.
Yeah.
It's like the ghost from Destiny. It's
kind of like a ghost.
Flying.
Yeah, it'll hover over your shoulder, but can be... captured by these traps, and you kind of usually have to get a key through the traps by manipulating the environment, again using the orbs. And then the third type of puzzle is this kind of memorization of a symbol sequence that you will find in the environment usually, and then have to touch 5 symbols in the right order to unlock a thing. Those are the 3 big ones I've seen, aside from just maybe minor environmental traversal puzzles.
That's like... I started to say it's my only knock against the game. I don't think it's even a knock, really. But they do repeat those puzzle template ideas kind of pretty frequently.
So they'll
in different ways, like in very different ways. In pretty different serious variation.
So did you get the third orb's power?
I think I'm right before that. I'm running around inside the third orb right now. I haven't like pulled it out and used or had to use its power yet, so I don't know what that is.
Each you like fight a boss and then you get its power, and the third orb boss fight was very cool. I really enjoyed it.
I thought the first 2 boss fights were also super impressive mechanically. I mean, like the first one I got to when it does there's like a not exactly bullet hell, but it's kind of something like that.
Yeah.
Both the way it animated and also the idea.
Crystal hell.
Yeah, but both the animation and what you were doing to interact with it, that's like 20 minutes into the game or something. Maybe
it's not very long. Yeah, I beat that one pretty quickly.
The second one is definitely a bullet hell one. That's the one with the purple or blue shots that fire at you that you have to dodge.
Yes, but when I got to the last phase of that first boss, I was just like out loud. I was just like, "Oh my god, man, this game's crazy!" Like it's just doing stuff I've never seen before. It's awesome.
And it's not like it's not an action game, so you're not like doing dodge rolling and stuff like that. You're just it's more like the bosses. You have to be aware of the environments and the mechanics and kind of just be on your toes.
And the controls are super simple. Like the controls are literally move and action. That's it.
Yeah, and very responsive. Like the movement is super responsive. Like there is some dexterity involved in beating the bosses. It's not super intense. Also, the fail state is weird because it just ejects you out of the world.
Yeah.
mid-boss fight, and you just have to go back to the portal and run back up to the boss again, and so you don't even lose, like, if it's a boss that takes multiple hits, you don't even lose progress on where you were in the fight.
Oh,
generally.
Really? I thought I got knocked out.
At least
Interesting.
I don't think.
I'm not sure. Yeah, some bosses have multiple states that take multiple hits. Maybe it checkpoints you at the state of
that. Might be what it is. I'm not sure. But it's not very punitive at all.
Yes, it's not punishing, and as someone who wants my action games to be actiony, my puzzle games to be puzzly, it does not feel like it's in an action game and shouldn't stop people from checking it out.
Yeah, definitely not.
It's more of a kind of a just tour of these environments, really, that keep you going, and the way you interact with them, and just seeing them kind of mush and mold and fly, and kind of, it's like I said, it's kind of creepy but also beautiful in its own elegant way. Elegant, I would say, is the way everything kind of moves.
Yeah, everything about the way it runs and moves and looks and animates is elegant, fluid, smooth. Just it feels like an art piece. Like, it feels kind of like an art piece in the same way that Inside did.
And polished, like it's
super polished.
It doesn't feel like it has, like, one of the problems with Somerville, I mean, again, different developers, but nonetheless, was that it felt kind of janky but when it eventually came around. This one does not. I have not had a single instance of anything feeling like it was out of place.
Yeah, everything feels like it works perfectly, like clockwork.
And it's very focused. It is very, I guess, like we have talked multiple times, you move and there's one action button that is, context sensitive to what you're doing, but it's basically just the one thing. It's neat. It's $25. I believe it's also on Game Pass if you subscribe to that. Well, it is in my tool here, and
I guess that's definitive then.
Yeah, right. Yes, take it for. It has name matched a game called Cocoon. Whether it is the same Cocoon that is out now, I did not go and check the current Game Pass stuff, but I could see it.
Oh yes, you're right. It's in all the Game Passes.
I think it's worth checking out if you're interested in that type of game, or at least check it out visually, and bop around in it for a bit.
Yeah, it won't take long to get to some of the unique ideas in this, and it's just refreshing to play something that feels like it's doing something new.
Before we take our first break, let's talk about Forza then. You guys played a little bit of Forza. Or some of Forza. I'm not sure how much you played.
I've played some hours of it.
What do you guys think?
It's good. I'm going to be real. I don't know what it is I was actually expecting from this game, because it's been 6 years since the last one.
Yeah.
And they've put out 2 Horizon games in that time, and I've definitely really enjoyed those last 2 Horizon games. So going back to a more, straight up sim style Forza, I don't know what it is I was actually expecting or hoping from it, other than, are the cars going to be really nice looking? Does it feel good? Is there a good variety? And is there enough content to keep me interested over time? I think on most of those fronts, it feels like it's delivering for me. There's definitely no shortage of cars, and I'm sure they will be adding more over time. Looks great, though I will say the visual fidelity mode that runs in 30 is chunky in a way that I don't like, and normally I'm not a big stickler for that kind of stuff.
I feel like driving, especially like precision, hardcore, car head driving like this, might be it's either this or fighting games, or maybe they're tied for games that, like, genres that need to be smooth.
Totally. And I think their performance RT mode, which is their halfway point, I think that one works just fine. Like, you can get most of what you want out of the visuals without sacrificing too much.
Yeah, I've gone back and forth, and they both look pretty good. Like the ray tracing one is described as like ray tracing on track, which I assume basically means just the cars.
I think just the cars and just the very edges of the track around it, because there's a pretty hard border where, like, if you're in photo mode, you can't really move the photo camera outside the realm of like kind of the narrow area around the track, and I assume that's where they're kind of boxing that stuff in.
Yeah, that's probably true. The trade-off there is it doesn't run at native 4K all the time. They scale the resolution.
Yeah, they change it depending on the scenario. Yeah,
it looks very good. I'm kind of like you on the visual front. I don't know what I was expecting, because the tracks are the tracks. It's not like you're going to be driving through Cocoon or something all of a sudden in Forza. It's the Nürburgring is the Nürburgring. Like, it looks realistic, but not like flashy in any way. Like the Hakone track in Japan, actually, at night was like kind of impressive, because there's a lot of like neon lights and stuff.
Yeah, and I think the weather effects and like day-night cycle stuff they're doing like looks really good. Like it feels pretty natural. Like the heavy rain effects, I will say, are very, very good, both from a car feel and a visual standpoint. I've mostly been playing the single player, which is a series of, here's a like 5 or 6 races, at least in the early goings. They probably add more as you get deeper into it. It's a particular car type, so you either buy a car or you get one of the many that they dump on you if you bought the expensive pre-order edition. And like they separate it out into, you do practice laps and then you go into the main race, and you can kind of set your position on the track where you want to be, and you get different rewards depending on where you are in the lineup and obviously how you perform. They still have all the usual stuff like, here's your racing line. You can turn that stuff off. Auto braking, you can turn that stuff off if you want. It's a little rote in that regard, but I mean, these games have always kind of been that way to some degree, and I'm kind of glad they didn't try and jam in a bunch of like chucklehead personality bullshit into it, because while I like the Horizon games a lot, I think the personality they give those games is actually the worst part of it, and I'm glad they didn't feel the need to try and like keep up with that by giving it its own bullshit fucking, dumbass racing guys talking to you constantly.
It's very sedate.
Yes.
Like it's like mild-mannered to a fault.
Yeah. And so when in multiplayer, if you're doing their featured races and stuff, that also comes with that structure. You have to go in and do qualifying before you go in and do the main race, which I think is kind of designed to discourage people from just like jumping in and driving like assholes. Like you have to spend a little time if you want to go in and do the multiplayer like championship stuff. I haven't done a ton of that because obviously it was pre-release and there weren't like, they had a few scheduled events and that was kind of it. And you can do private races that doesn't have any of that stuff. Like if you just want to just race with your friends, you can do that, I think. But, like the progression is pretty by the numbers, but the thing I like about it is the way they have sort of tied car level to how you upgrade stuff. When you are racing in one of the main things, you are leveling up your car as you go along. And as you level it up, you gain access to more, I'm going to call them credits. I don't know if they have an official name or not, but it's not the currency you use to buy new cars. It's a separate thing that is tied to to progression. So each time you level up the car, you gain a few more of those credits, and that gives you access to better upgrades and stuff. But you have a hard limit in terms of like, okay, you can only spend this number of credits until you level up further.
I'm kind of, to step back a little bit, I'm kind of surprised, A, how approachable this game is, and B, how much I'm, like, weirdly getting into it.
Yes.
I sat down with this thing purely to look at the graphics. I was like, they've been pushing this thing as kind of like if not the technical showpiece for the Series X. Got this new TV, just want to, like, look at something. I want to look at pretty cars.
Totally.
But, like, and also I've tried, like, time and again over the years to get into Gran Turismos and Forza Motorsports of various types. Just never stick with it.
Mm-hmm.
But like the onboarding is just so like
simple,
understandable for anybody. Yeah, like they kind of abstract stuff that normally would be intimidating out and just say like, hey, just like you can just auto do this if you want, like the car tuning stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're like, hey, you level up your car. Like, do you want to just hit the auto, like come up with a loadout? It's not a loadout. What's the term for a car? Like a tuning configuration or whatever you want to call it. Like, they're going to like upgrade your suspension or fucking fuel injector. I don't know, car shit. But they do it all for you. They just are like, hey, if you want us to like figure out with the credits you've got how much or the best way to upgrade this car, and then we'll just show you, okay, the handling is going to get 0.3 better. Speed will do this. Here's how much it'll cost. Sure. Confirm, let's go. Like you can just, when you level the car up, you can just hit a button basically and make the car better. That's totally awesome. Like at the beginning, they ask you like, they're like, hey, what rule sets do you want? Like, do you want the racing line on or off? Do you want rewind to be available? Do you want to be penalized for like collisions and going off the track? If you don't want all that stuff, you will get more credits. They're very explicitly like, hey, if you turn this off, you'll get 6% more experience and credits to upgrade shit.
Yeah.
Like it's just very plainly presented of like, hey, just pick this, automate this, just go.
Yeah, it's very configurable, but at the same time, it does not feel overwhelming or like it is too granular to ever really want to mess with. And the main thing is that, like, is the driving good? Yes, it is. It is a lot of fun. It feels like they have not lost the flavor of what makes Forza good in those ensuing years. They have definitely made a graphical showpiece. I find some of the presentation stuff just like a little underwhelming, but not like none of it's bad. It's just sort of like, okay, it's just very by the numbers. It's very like, we are getting you into a race. Here's your race. Go.
I'm kind of with you. Like I was expecting, I don't, again, I'm like you said, I don't know what I was expecting, but I was kind of hoping for a little more visual pizzazz.
Yeah.
But it's just a very good looking, serious car game.
Yeah. And it's excellent at being that. And I think that considering where they left off with that series and the sort of general grumbling around like what they did to the economy of the last one and microtransactions and all that kind of stuff, none of that is here. So they have definitely heard your complaints and are not doing that.
Let me ask a weird question. Would you say people that are into games like this like end up having a personal connection to some car or some aspect of them? Because like I've weirdly have been like kind of missing the era in which I drove a car regularly recently, and was actually looking at a 2018 white Civic online not long ago. I get through the tutorial of this and they give you your first 3 starter cars. And sure enough, lo and behold, one of them is a white 2018 Civic.
Yep.
And I was just like, oh my God, like I was just looking at a used one of those thinking like, man, it'd be cool to drive again.
I mean,
and then there was the car and I was like, fuck, I'm actually going to play this because I want to drive this car that I kind of wanted to drive in real life. I don't know.
Totally. I mean, look, one of the other 3 cars they give you at the beginning is the 2019 model of my car. So it's Subaru,
yes.
So of course I seized on that. And yeah, I don't think that's universal, but I definitely feel like most people that get very heavily into car games have some affection for, at the very least, a particular brand, if not a particular model. And they want to play as many of those cars as they can.
There are electric cars in it? Do they have like EV racing?
I believe they do. I mean, for the Horizon games definitely did. There was like Priuses and things like that in there. So
interesting. I am curious to see if my son gets as into this as he got into Horizon. I know it's a very different type of game, so I'm curious. He played some Gran Turismo, but I think he kind of bounced off of it. I think he liked the vibe of Horizon, that kind of open world, run through trees and stuff.
It's less goofy than Gran Turismo tends to be. Like their weird, just extremely eccentric personality of those games. Like it doesn't really have any of that. So if you found that stuff kind of boring and did not really enjoy progressing through that, just that kind of weird around the edges bullshit of the Gran Turismo games is just not here. It really is just like get into a race and go.
Yeah. Yes, for sure. Do you turn the driving line off eventually in these games, or do you always run with it?
I usually, when they have the option for just braking, I usually tend to leave that on just because I like a little bit, especially when I'm learning a course, I like having a little bit of a sense of like, how hard do I need to be braking around this hairpin, et cetera, et cetera.
Is that reduced from the default driving line?
I believe it is, yeah, because the default driving line gives you like the full ideal line.
Oh, so does the line only show up when you need to brake?
Yeah, it only shows the red parts. Yeah,
interesting. Okay,
the red and the orange.
I should try that. Yeah, like I mean, it's no great revelation to anybody. You have to be very disciplined playing games like this to play them right. And for whatever reason, I have actually put some time into trying to make myself finally do it right, and like I've actually gotten kind of better at it. Like I had the great revelation. I'm sure it's old hat to everybody else, but like, oh, braking should probably be like the last resort, not the first thing I do to try to make the line turn the right color, right? Like I should just be coasting into the turns if possible.
If possible, yeah.
Instead of actively slowing myself down, and only if I just feather the brake a little bit or just barely tap it.
Always handbrake, always drift.
If I really need to.
This ain't initial D, Vinny.
Is that thing the like picking your starting position and having like kind of a higher bounty if you set yourself further back? Is that like a common thing, or is that new?
I don't remember that from the last one. Again, it's been 6 years, so admittedly my memory of it is a little bit hazy, but I don't remember you being able to adjust your thing on the fly like that.
I thought that was a very cool feature for somebody who doesn't really know what they're doing, because the last race of that first Builders Cup, I put myself at 5 and managed to make it to first before the race was over, and it felt really good. It was like, okay, like I got to pick my own challenge here. I got a little bit of a reward for it, but more to the point, like I got to decide, okay, can I make it from 5th to 1st over the course of 4 laps? And I totally did. Like it was kind of cool.
And they're still doing the Drivatar stuff, so like the AI that you're racing against is at the very least allegedly loosely based on the way that other online drivers have been going. That comes with its own caveats. Like you can adjust the difficulty as much. Like I think it's on a 1 to 10 scale. You definitely run into situations where you will get a Drivatar in your thing, and suddenly that guy just goes flying off the fucking track, and you're not really sure why. Whether that was because that's what that driver was doing, or the AI just had a moment.
That's the Drivatar classic.
Yeah, and this feels like Drivatar classic by and large.
A little sad, a little wistful not to see Mechberg among my starting Drivatars, but. That was a different time. He's got other stuff on his plate now.
Maybe in a couple of days he'll be up there. This is out next week, but you get that 5-day early access if you get the premium edition. Seems like that is Microsoft's way at this point.
Are they doing the Starfield thing of you can pay like for just the premium parts if you have Game Pass and play it early?
I'm sure it must be. If you get the premium edition. What is it, out tomorrow? I think if it's let me double check. I'm pretty sure you could just buy the extra bits if you have it. But
those are in packs that you can just buy in the store if you don't have the pre-order edition.
But there is the deluxe edition, which is $90 all in, and then with the game, and then $100 for the premium edition, and that's the one that gets you the whole
thing, the season 1 pass, I think all that stuff.
Oh, do they do season passes in there as well?
I believe they are doing season passes for cars, if I'm not mistaken.
I think the add-on bundle, Brad, is $40 if you just want that. With your
that's more than Starfield.
With your Game Pass stuff. Because I think that's the premium and everything. No cool watch, I guess.
No.
I don't know.
I don't need a watch. I'm fine.
Did you guys ever? I don't want to look. It's still Microsoft. Did you guys ever see those in the wild? Anybody get one of those watch things, Starfield watches? Like, have you seen?
Somebody must have.
You are way overestimating how often I go out of my house.
Well, it's pictures of them. I just haven't seen anything of them at all.
No.
Like, did they go out eventually? Like they were in the
have they shipped?
They were in the box.
Allegedly.
I thought they were in that thing.
Yeah,
right?
I just haven't seen anybody talk about it at all. Man, maybe we're disconnected from the zeitgeist.
Here's the real question: are there any on eBay?
Oh, yeah.
Guaranteed there are. Absolutely.
If they exist, they're on eBay.
If there is a pre-order item in the world, that thing is on eBay at some point.
Yes, here we go. Watch only, $180.
Dang! How much was the bundle?
I think it was
120.
I think 300 for that thing.
Forget it. All right.
I'm good, thanks.
Oh my
gosh. Yes. Starfield Constellation Edition, $300.
Did it come with a dang ship? That is Forza Motorsport.
Didn't even come with the game, did it? No. I'm sorry, it did. It did.
A physical game though, or a code?
No, I think. All of these Constellation Edition eBay listings say no game, which I took to mean this was one of those special editions that doesn't actually have the game in it. But I think it was a code that they used.
No, it just means you have no swag.
Those types of special editions certainly exist these days.
Oh yeah. That's Forza Motorsport. Unless you guys have anything else you want to say about old Forza.
No, I'm still playing it. Is all I can really say is that like I've been playing it for a few days and actually almost a week now. And let me tell you right now, I'm going to keep playing it.
Yeah, like that's the thing for me is I might actually play more of it, which is kind of a first for these.
That's Forza Motorsport. That is out officially on the 10th, but like we said, if you get the premium edition, you can play it 5 days early, and that's also going to be on Game Pass, obviously, from Xbox Game Studios in Turn 10. All right, we are going to take a quick break, and we'll talk some Assassin's Creed Mirage when we come back, so stick around. This week's show is brought to you by Bespoke Post, Alex Navarro and Brad Shoemaker. Box of Awesome. When I say Box of Awesome, what does that mean to you, Brad Shoemaker?
It means better than a box of not all. What's the opposite of awesome?
Average or terrible? It's not a box of terrible.
No, thank you.
It's a box of awesome, Alex Navarro.
A box of awesome is a box that comes to my door. What has awesome in it? I don't know, some whiskey glasses or some knives.
I have gotten both of those things from a box of awesome. I have gotten an old-fashioned kit to make some old fashions. I got a book about whiskey, which was a very nice book that came in some whiskey glasses. I will say, of all the box of awesomes I have had, I mostly use the stuff that comes in it. I've gotten, like you said, Alex Navarro, a couple of knives. I've gotten some camping stuff. I got a bird collar in one that we used.
I've gotten no fewer than 2 headlamps.
I want a headlamp. It is fall, and they have a bunch of camping stuff, autumn cocktails, like we mentioned, the knives and the
knives are a year-round treat. Let's be honest.
I guess so. I shouldn't put your seasonal knife. To get started, you can take a quiz at boxofawesome.com, and your answers will help them pick the right box of awesome for you. They release new boxes every month across a ton of different categories. And each box is valued at around $70, but you're only going to pay a fraction of that price. And maybe my favorite part here, with each box of awesome, you're supporting small businesses. 90% of everything that comes in your box of awesome is from a small and up-and-coming brand. It's free to sign up, and you can skip a month or cancel anytime. To get 20% off your first monthly box when you sign up at boxofawesome.com, enter the code Nextlander at checkout. That's boxofawesome.com, code Nextlander for 20% off your first box. Boxofawesome.com, code Nextlander. Thanks, Bespoke Post. And we're back. And Assassin's Creed Mirage comes out on the 5th. By the time this podcast goes up on the public feed, it should be out. We have gotten code the day before release, which is the day we're recording.
Yeah, but to be real about this, we do not have a lot of time in this game because it showed up yesterday.
Yeah, so I have about 2 hours in Assassin's Creed Mirage. That seemed to be about enough time to make it through the prologue.
Oh, God, man.
Let me say...
Go ahead.
Kind of 2 late title cards here. One at about the hour mark, and then you get the Assassin's Creed Mirage after the full prologue ends, and you get back to Baghdad, which took me about an hour, 45 minutes, 2 hours.
I'm not sure there's anything you could say about a game that would put me off of playing it more than that the prologue is 2 hours long.
I mean, you're doing stuff in the prologue. It's not like you're doing nothing, but by the time you're an assassin, it takes a little bit there. They slow walk this one in the beginning. So, Brad, do you want to talk about kind of the history of this one? This was a piece of DLC that got spun out.
That's kind of all I know to say. I think wasn't this Valhalla DLC?
Yes, it was. It was supposed to be the last piece of Valhalla DLC, if I remember correctly.
Who's the character? Basim?
Basim.
What's the guy's name? He was a Valhalla character, right?
I mean, he was a main character in that game. He was like the main non-playable character in that game.
Yeah, like if I have this right, I think this was, like you said, it was supposed to be Valhalla DLC, and then they basically had a gap in their schedule because, like, who knows what the hell Assassin's Creed Infinity is? Or Infinite
thing that still sort of exists in the background, yeah.
Infinity, right? That's like their big like platform or whatever. And anyway, they needed an Assassin's Creed game. So this became that.
So Assassin's Creed Mirage, like we set up here, you take on Basim, and Alex, I was gonna message you, and then I was just figured I'd just wait until the podcast.
Sure.
I'm lost with the Assassin's Creed lore.
Let me try and help you as best I can. Now, I want to be clear. I played almost none of the Valhalla DLC. I played some of the first one,
so
and
no
then
Ragnarok.
I totally checked out.
Was it Ragnarok, or was that the edition they called it? Was the DLC called Ragnarok?
It's the one where you go to Ireland.
Okay.
That's all I remember.
So, without getting too much into spoiler territory.
No, we should just spoil what happens in Valhalla, because if you're going to play this thing, you absolutely need to know what's going on in Valhalla.
So this game does not have a previously on Assassin's Creed, which I find criminal at this point. It does take you to a store for the rest of the Assassin's Creed franchise on the front page, but does not have like a previously on. But it starts with William Miles talking to you over some kind of codex, and basically, which I remember Desmond Miles. Is William Miles his dad? I do remember some. So my Assassin's Creed knowledge gets really shaky after Black Flag.
You played Origins, but you didn't go through the other two after that, did you?
Even Syndicate, Unity, I'm very fuzzy on, and then Origins, Odyssey, I really played none of. I finished Origins. I don't remember. I think it's William Miles. Is it his dad?
He is Desmond's dad, yes. And a member of the Assassins.
Says, yes, I kind of remember that. I think some of that's maybe in Black Flag or something, but like it starts off being like, here's a memory that I thought better left untouched. And then you're just kind of in Basim. And
also, by the way, William Miles is voiced by John Delancey.
Okay. Great. Fantastic.
You don't know who that is, Vinny? Brad, you know.
I feel like we've had John Delancey in some other stuff. Was John Delancey?
It's Q.
Oh, okay.
Oh, God. Yes. That, of course, yes.
Yes. Not that Q. The Q from Star Trek.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. He's very serious in this portrayal.
Okay.
Okay. He's not goofy.
I don't know if he's still voicing that character. He was the original voice of that character.
Okay. Either way, that's about it for the setup on this in terms of I don't even need anything else really, but that's where this picks up. I didn't know if that meant anything to you, being like William Miles is setting this one up, talking to someone, I don't know to whom, but then you're immediately in the game.
The main thing to know going into this is that Basim, while he is the person that introduces, was it Eivor? The main character in Valhalla is the one who sort of brings Eivor into the fold with the assassins by gifting them a hidden blade and kind of never actually makes them a member of the Brotherhood, but sort of lets them do Brotherhood stuff while the game is going on.
Okay.
And again, this is a spoiler. I am saying this right now for you if you want to fast forward for some reason or another. Again, this game came out, 3 years ago? I'm just saying. You need to, this is the thing you need to know. Basim becomes the primary antagonist of Valhalla, and Basim is either the reincarnation or the new impersonification of Loki.
Okay.
Sure.
Now, I don't know what this game is going to do with any of that, because this is purporting to tell the story of Basim's early days in the Brotherhood in Baghdad before the events
this is
of Valhalla.
Yeah, it's definitely a prequel, because this is how he does not start off in the. It's not even the Brotherhood yet. I think they call them the Shadow. I forget what they're called. It's not like the Assassin's Guild quite yet.
It's way less codified by that point, because at that stage, like, it's really just from Origins. Bayek, yes. So Bayek and such has founded the Brotherhood, so to speak, but it's still pretty early days. And I think Odyssey takes place before the Brotherhood actually exists, I think.
Yes, I think that's right. Yeah. This takes place in 800 CE. So
this would actually be fairly close, I think, to where Valhalla picks up.
It must
within,
be, I mean,
within a
right?
40 to 50 year span, yeah.
And I forget when Origins takes place, but it's hundreds of years before that. Yeah. It's in like the turn of it's at like 50 BC or something, right?
Yeah, but the way, and without getting way into the nitty gritty here, the way Valhalla more or less ends is with Basim waking up in the real world, like as himself, but with the knowledge of what he has done. And a lot of that ties into the ancient technology shit that you find in that game and all the fucking Earth problem stuff that's going on in the main timeline. Again, I checked out of that stuff at a certain point because past the main game, I'd already put like 110 hours into that thing. And the first DLC was not compelling enough to keep me going through it. So if there's new details past that, I don't know what they are.
This is a question about 15 years out of date, but like, what's up with the gods that are implied at the end of, is it 2? for Brotherhood around that. Remember at the end, like remember 2 gets completely weird at the end with like
I don't know so long.
A goddess of some kind showing up.
Yeah, Minerva. I don't know if they have
Minerva?
There was Minerva and Athena. They were in the computers, and there was there was an ancient civilization, and they were
there's a progenitor race, all that stuff.
And then they the humans were basically the kind of subservient species there, right? And then they rebelled, and there was some kind of, and then the objects of Eden were part of that thing, and there was some kind of existential apocalypse. Right, or something.
I mean, they're still hammering on that stuff here and there. Like, I'm pretty sure a lot of what happens with the quote-unquote gods in Valhalla has something to do with all of that, though I'm going to be honest with you, I don't remember a lot of it, because the Valhalla stuff, like the going to Asgard stuff was, like, the least interesting part of that game to me, which is a real bummer, because that could have been the most wild, exciting stuff. Anyway, this is Mirage. We're talking about the current game, which we've barely had a chance to touch, but...
So Mirage basically has, this is pre-Basim in the Assassin's Guild. You kind of get how he gets entangled in it, what happens there. It takes place in, at least where I am, I think it's a smaller scope here, because I think it might just be Baghdad proper. This is a $50 game, by the way. My initial impressions are that it is not... it doesn't feel extremely polished in a way that I was maybe expecting from what feels like it is being pitched as a mainline Assassin's Creed game. It is it's a little clunky here and there. Some of the animations a little clunky here and there. Like some of the things that you would expect either bigger team or more time to get the polish out on those things. Like that. But that being said, it's kind of par for the course back on the pre-Origins Assassin's Creed. And that's also what this was being pitched as, kind of a return to less open world loot. There's still loot for sure. Not the kind of loot drops you get from the Origins Odyssey. And I didn't play much Valhalla, but I assume Valhalla...
They scaled it back from where Odyssey was in Valhalla. They're still dropping a fair amount of loot, but it is not the constant barrage of it and junk that you were getting. I feel like in Odyssey, like they've over those 3 games, they kind of turned the dial each time.
The Nile
in terms of how much loot they're throwing at you.
This reminds me more of previous stuff where you're getting gear from chests and then kind of opening a crafting menu to get leather and go to the crafting person and upgrade those kind of things.
I think that's more close to what Valhalla was doing, and I think what they're doing here is probably just a even slightly more scaled back version of that, considering the size of it.
Again, grain of salt, pretty early on still. Just got back into Baghdad, but it is go to the tower, ping the things on the map, search around the city for stuff, take your side quests if you want. They have the investigations menu, which is what I remember from my time with Origins. I don't know if they brought it into everything else.
Yeah, but they've all of them have some version of that.
The Order is back. I suspect that is something that was. I think that's what it was in Origins as well. The guys with the big gold masks, right? They were in. Were they in Valhalla as well? Instead of the what was that? What they call the bad guys in the original ones?
There's Templars.
Templars, yes. Yeah. So this is the Order, not the Templars.
Yeah. They don't become the Templars until considerably after this, I think. Okay. Yeah.
And so, it feels more parry kill. I think that's the biggest thing to get into, right? The combat. The combat doesn't feel as God of War like or kind of mashy as maybe things had gotten when I played Origins. It feels a little more restrained on timing and subtlety and parries. Very parry based. Like, hey, here's an attack you can parry. Here's an attack you can't parry. If you parry, you might be able to get this one hit kill in. So that's cool. Now I can't really say too much without just basically speculating where things would go because it's so early on. But it didn't initially set up a world that seemed full of mystery to me. Like, like kind of what you want from an Assassin's Creed game, this kind of subterfuge and what is going on behind the scenes here. But I haven't cracked the surface too much yet. Maybe
Yeah, it's hard to say at an early stage, though. Yeah. I've seen some people who have reviewed this game talking about how it does not necessarily feel like it ascends beyond the this used to be DLC kind of feel to it, which is to say that even though they have thrown more production at it and, you know, tried to scale it out a little bit more, it does not necessarily like loose itself from the reins of, hey, this is attached to a previous game.
I again, having not played the previous game and only played 2 hours of this, well, I could, if telling me that, I can map that onto how I'm feeling a bit in here. We'll see. I'm going to keep going with it for sure.
I feel like the question that's going to rise out of this is, should I play Valhalla to understand what's going on here? And to that, I say go with God. It's too much. Like, that game is too much. It's not bad, but there is way too much of Valhalla for what it actually has to offer. And unless you want to spend like 100 fucking hours playing an okay game, I'd say just read a wiki and then jump into this thing if you're really itching for it.
Yeah, I might just like watch one of those recap YouTube videos and be good with that. Odyssey as well. Odyssey sounds like maybe a more interesting game to me, but I never.
Odyssey has better characters. That's the main thing. Is that like my main problem? I mean, I had a few problems with Valhalla. My main problem is that none of the characters are that exciting or interesting. Eivor in particular, no matter which performance you get, is not that exciting of a protagonist. You know, at least with Cassandra, as opposed to Alexios in Odyssey, Cassandra was fun. Mm-hmm. And, you know, you can spend half that game basically just fucking the entirety of Greece, which is great. They're just... You can do a lot of that stuff in Valhalla, but it's a lot more muted and just does not have as much like pizzazz as what the previous two had.
Assassin's Creed Mirage feels much more stealthy. Also, I mean
that's good. That's what people were asking for. Really,
this is a stealth game within a confined city, which is kind of what they had gotten away from with their more open worldy
and good on them.
Yeah. So I'm curious to see where it goes. Again, it is $50. It is available on everything except for the Switch. And that
don't worry, they'll do a streaming version of it at some point. It'll look great.
Out on the 5th.
I think that the one thing I'll say real quick that has made me interested in looking at it, although I could probably just look at YouTube, they put that Assassin's Creed 1 visual filter in there, which I did not realize until today.
Know until you mentioned that, yeah.
Like, apparently it shifts the color palette toward that more desaturated, like, you remember the look of the first game, right? The very first game, like, it's got that washed out, like, bluish kind of look to it. Apparently does that to this, which is just a pure nostalgia play, but I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah. I mean, this whole thing is kind of a nostalgia play, right?
Yes.
So, makes sense.
Like, going back to the Middle East, you know, going back to that style of gameplay. Like, and I think those are all smart decisions on their part. It's just that, you know, does this thing actually deliver? And I've seen some mixed feelings on that.
That's Assassin's Creed Mirage. Alex, fights in tight spaces is back.
Weapon of choice. Cue up your Christopher Walken and your Fatboy Slim. Let's fucking go. Yeah, I forgot this was coming out, honestly, until I saw the, hey, this is out notice about it. And I was like, fuck, I haven't booted up Fight in some Tight Spaces in like a year-ish. What, am I going to be able to jump back in here? Am I going to have a good time with this? Instantly. Like, within 10 minutes, I was already kind of back under the spell of this thing. My favorite game of 2021.
Good. I know you love it. So this introduces weapons.
Yes, there was always like a little bit of like knife crime in that game, but guns were mostly relegated to enemies. Now they have given you the ability to do some John Wick shit with guns, which is always fun. And there is a separate DLC campaign that comes along with it. You can either implement the gun deck stuff into the main campaign, or you can just do this other side campaign, which is like a slightly different quote-unquote story, though the story in these is pretty light. It's more of just a structure to get you through it. But the gun moves are cool. Like, that's the only thing that mattered as far as, like, is this DLC any good? And yes, the gun moves are cool. Stuff still chains together really well with these new attacks. Like, it feels like it flows with the other stuff that's already there.
Do the bad guys all have guns too now?
Not all of them. Like, but there are more gun enemies that have been introduced as a result of this. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it'd been just long enough since that game came out that I was starting to wonder if they were kind of done with it. But then I remembered that they had this DLC campaign. And yes, now that they have dropped this, I'm like, you could just keep adding to this for a while if you want. That'd be great. I'd be into it.
Do you have a weapon of choice so far in the game?
I've only played through the DLC campaign once. And by through, I mean, I got to like 4 stages in and then died. But so far, it has been, you have a handgun. And there are a bunch of different attacks that come along with that. But it isn't like they give you a bunch of different guns so far.
Oh, maybe different whole levels have...
I mean, there could be a situation where you start evolving or getting new attacks that are like different guns, but that has not happened for me yet.
Okay, I thought it was going to be like a card per gun type or something.
No. It's more like you get a deck that is guns.
Okay. Oh, okay. The gun deck.
Yeah.
Weapon of choice.
It's out now. I think it's $10 if I remember correctly.
For the DLC.
I'm looking at the store page right now just to verify. It is in fact
$10.
$9 right now on Steam.
You have to buy the game separately.
Yes, the game is separate. Though I think the game is also like, if you buy the complete edition with everything right now, it's $35.
Okay. It's a fun game.
It is.
That is Fights in Tight Spaces, Weapon of Choice, Walk Without Rhythm.
Mm-hmm.
It won't attract the worm. Now we all know. Now we all get it. Now we've all seen Dune. Finally, everything's coming together. The convergence. Brad Shoemaker.
Mm-hmm.
Bring it home.
Can't peel you away from that Remnant 2.
How did this happen?
You're spreading your sickness. I feel like, to me, there was a thing after we streamed Remnant 2 on Monday where you're like, can you stick around and get a thing? And then I was like,
join my game for 10 minutes to stand on these pressure plates for me.
To help you get a thing. And then I was like, oh man, I think I might jump back into this and start scooping up some stuff too. This stuff seems awesome.
I don't know how this happened. Like, it's not like I've been playing this game consistently since we started streaming it. I just fell back into it on Sunday and have probably played like 15 hours of it since then.
Got the loot lust.
Like, I started hitting the wiki as part of it and realizing just how goddamn much loot there is that we have not found, because most of the loot in that game is hidden behind either like boss or optional encounters or some kind of weird environmental puzzle or secret wall or something. Like, that game is just it's got 1 foot in Dark Souls, 1 foot in Destiny, basically.
It's probably worth pointing out to people who don't know Remnant 2. We've been streaming it in our series, unnamed as of yet. Maybe we'll think of a good name by the time we get to the end of Remnant 2. But the game rolls kind of a not randomized necessarily, but a different worlds per playthrough for each player. So when, Brad, you're playing your single player campaign, you're getting different encounters in different worlds than maybe we're going through, which have different items sometimes, right?
Yes.
There's a shuffle quality to it.
I wound up with Indera's End in my playthrough, which is a side optional dungeon that we did not get in Alex's campaign online. I also got the best dude, this game's wild, and like some of the grindiness, some of the RNG, like depending on randomness stuff, would be pretty off-putting to some people. It kind of is to me at times. The level of things that can be randomized and the level of things that you might want, that you might have to keep re-rolling over and over and playing through again and again, hoping show up. Like, that stuff arguably is a little much. So, like, there's 3 major worlds, and the order that you encounter them in your playthrough is randomized. Once you draw a world, there are 2 totally different storylines through that world that have different locations and different events and stuff. The optional dungeons you get attached to those are different, and then each dungeon, each thing, also is put together out of random components that you may or may not get. So like that Indera's End side dungeon that I got, there's that musical puzzle we got.
Yeah.
Actually, you saw both of them. There's a musical tower and there's the pressure plate thing.
Oh, so both of them are either some musical puzzle either way.
So reading Reddit, I got pretty lucky that I got both tower and pressure plate in my roll of Indera's End.
Okay.
Because like people were like, oh man, you got the good roll. You got both of them, because they're both like chock full of items, basically. So I got like 6 really good rare items out of that, because like I had access to those puzzles. But like, if you didn't get that, so there's an archer ring in that dungeon I did not get that makes that bow way, way better.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm faced with the prospect of maybe re-rolling adventure mode in that world over and over until I not only get Indara's End again, but the right version of it that has access to that ring.
And to clarify, because I'm familiar with it and it's still confusing, there's the campaign mode, which you roll your seed and you kind of go through your kind of predetermined campaign world that you've gotten, or there's adventure mode where you're kind of just could basically be called farming mode, right? Where you're just kind of rolling the world over and over again, or you get the one you want to go into that particular world version of that world you want and go in there, which it doesn't affect your campaign.
Yeah, like ultimately it can be used for farming. It's actually nice though, because as soon as you finish a world in any form, like I finished it in Alex's game that we've been streaming, they unlock adventure mode for that world. So in my case, you're only going to get one of the two storylines, right? The first time through a world, I immediately just started adventure mode in that world and landed on the other storyline. So now I'm getting to see like all new stuff, basically.
Right. But you could have just re-rolled it immediately to try to get the other one if you wanted, right?
Yeah. Yes. But your first time through the game, you don't know any difference between one or the other, so I might as well just take the one you get and then go do the other one. But then, like, I also spent a significant amount of time farming blood essence so I could unlock the summoner class, which requires warping around in Yesha until you get a blood moon event. Like, it starts feeling very MMO-like. Like, and I start to say it starts feeling Destiny-like, but Destiny is just a shooter MMO, essentially, at its core in terms of loot drops and randomness and all that stuff. It's actually interesting. Like, I think we'll touch on this when we talk about the Sony news in a little bit. This game feels in every way like a live service game, except there is zero service attached to it. It's purely a pay the price, get the game, play the game.
It is a 1 to 3 player cooperative third-person shooter with loot-based shooter. But Brad, you're in single player. What do you think so far versus the 3-player?
Well, I left it on veteran, which is the second difficulty level, which is pretty goddamn punishing by yourself.
Okay.
So there's that.
Doable. If people wanted to play single player?
Yeah, I think it's better in co-op. It's more entertaining. You get to synergize classes because you guys are playing totally different classes than me. Mm-hmm. It's absolutely viable. You could have fun with it for sure. And I think it's got matchmaking. I think you can just like join on random people's games.
Okay. And
you wanted to do that.
And again, if you haven't been keeping track, we've been playing a bunch of this throughout the last couple of weeks. But I'll say this about playing, especially random co-op. They do a really good job of sharing all of these spoils of war with everybody that's in the co-op game. I think the only thing that really doesn't come back to every player when they pick it up is ammo. But crafting materials, boss drops, all of those things, armor, treasure, all gets shared and duplicated to every player that's in that world, or it's supposed to.
Unless it bugs out. Which, in fact, not getting that lightning pistol that you guys got because I was dead and it bugged out is the whole reason I went back to this game. I was just like, fucking fine. I'm going to put the 6 hours in to get back to that point in the game in my playthrough so I can get that damn pistol, which I did. But I got so much other stuff along the way that I was like, oh my God, there is so much stuff to get in this game that we have never seen.
It also looks really good.
Yeah, it looks really good, and it's also like a lot of really interesting mechanics. Like it is the Destiny thing of like they came up with a lot of really interesting ideas for not just the way these guns look, but also how they behave and what they do mechanically. So there's just a lot to see there.
It is out on Xbox, PlayStation 5, or it's on X and S, but it's on PlayStation 5, not 4.
Yeah, I'm not
PC.
clear. I think the console versions were maybe a little rough at launch. I'm not sure how they are now. We've been playing on Steam. Which is also a little crashy and buggy, but still.
I had heard on launch maybe some of the friends and matchmaking stuff on the console, especially the PlayStation 5, was a little, maybe not all there. I think they're working on cross play, but there is no cross progression, and I don't think that's on a roadmap. So
yeah,
if you coordinate with your friends if you're going to play it, if you're going to pick it up on which platform you want to play.
Yeah, it's just weird. My relationship with this game has totally shifted in the last like 3-4 days from, I know that this term is usually used very pejoratively and I don't mean it that way, but like we've been kind of like content tourists through the game so far, just playing through it once, like whatever, it's fine, right? Like you're just going to play through the game and you're done with it. But like I've gone from we'll play it 2 hours a week, we'll get through it eventually, to scrutinizing wikis, like learning very intricately how all the environments are put together and what can spawn in different roles, that kind of thing. Like to really intimately get to know all of a game's ins and outs and start exploiting it is like a very different way to play a game like this than to just go through it once.
Mm-hmm.
I can't wait to watch your lore videos.
And it starts to, I've only watched a couple of build videos. Like there are people out there straight up like DPS theory crafters on YouTube putting together like crazy builds in this game, which I don't think I'll ever quite get to the point of, but like I've kind of got a ramshackle bleed build going now because I've gotten like 4 different bleed things that I've comboed together.
I have had a lot of fun playing through with you guys and seeing the stuff you picked up individually, which is also interesting because now your character is very different than ours, because playing it together, we kind of all had the same stuff, and if it's really good stuff, eventually we're starting to get more and more things where we're diverging, but we kind of were using all the same things. Yeah. But now to see your character have a very different build and loadout than ours is also very interesting.
Yeah, so I finally got the summoner class, so now I've got 2 monsters and a turret hanging out with me, which in some cases is just drop all that shit and stand back.
Got your pet classes.
Let it do its thing. It does feel a little punishing in spots. The last thing I'll say, like for people who know the game, I got the Imperial Gardens in the current Yeisha playthrough I'm doing. I know this sounds like gibberish. There's a giant like moth boss that spawns in that side dungeon, but it can have all these modifiers on it that like make it regen health or teleport around the map. And that thing, it's hard to explain. This boss like flies around the map constantly and it'll like attack you but then fly away. And so like the recommended way to kill this optional boss is to go in with a party and position people around different parts of the map so they can continue shooting it when it flies away from the first person shooting it and gets near them. Because like by yourself, it's like basically impossible. And if you pull a version of it that can regen health or like teleport away from you, it's like quite literally impossible to kill by yourself.
Did you beat it?
No, fuck no.
Bring us in. Let's do it.
We absolutely.
Yeah.
If you guys next week want to, it drops a pretty good mutator for what it's worth.
Jump in.
You guys want to join my adventure mode next week and try to kill this moth boss?
Hell yeah.
We could give it a shot.
We'll mothball that moth boss. I think that's cool that like you have a different thing that we probably won't see in our playthrough.
Yeah, but it stuff like that feels like, especially when my version of that moth spawned with the teleporter, which makes it like almost impossible to even hit, let alone kill. It kind of feels like a big fuck you from the game in the way that the Dark Souls games will do sometimes. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like just like this feels like wrong design. Not just bad design, but wrong design. It's like just shouldn't exist in a video game. Like no,
like malicious.
Nobody in their right mind would actually put this in a video game and then foist it on people and have to make them deal with it. And yet they did.
Yeah, put your turret on it. Stick your turret on one spot and your other stuff. No, let's get us in there. Let's do it.
It's weird. The game is really cool. Like there's some shit in there that happened to me in the middle of a conversation that felt straight out of Bloodborne. That I won't go into detail on. It's a really, really cool game.
As Remnant 2, that came out a little while ago, but is still out there again on PS5 and Xbox Series X and S, and on the PC, of course. I think that's going to do it for the games. Unless anybody else has anything else they want to add, I'm going to probably jump back into some Assassins for the rest of the... Till next week, see what comes out. I know we got more stuff even on the horizon, the Forza horizon. But yeah, Forza next week. Let's take a quick break. We'll be back with the news. Stick around. And we are back, and it is time for the video game news. Brad Shoemaker, your favorite Crash Zoom is stepping down.
Mm-hmm. True. About 10 minutes after we finished the podcast last week.
God, it was super quick.
Jason Schreier of Bloomberg broke the story that Jim Ryan is set to resign from Sony Computer Entertainment.
Who is Jim Ryan?
I'm sorry, yes. Sony Interactive Entertainment. I will never get used to that.
No.
Ever. Sony Computer Entertainment was a better name.
Well, you won't have to get used to the reign of Jim Ryan either, because it's coming to an end.
Yeah, I had to look it up. It was just 2019 that he took over. Head of PlayStation, I should say. Head
Sean
of
Layton before him, right?
Yes. Head of, what is it, games and network services now, I think? Is the division or something like that?
They're reorg and shuffling around of stuff. So SIE, Sony Interactive Entertainment, he was CEO of that, but before that, he's been at Sony for ages, right? For decades, Jim Ryan?
I guess he'd been there since the launch of the first PlayStation, actually, 30 years.
And then, so there's the Sony group, right?
God damn it. Somebody I follow in sort of a games business capacity that I just always assume people like that are older than me, tweeted when this went out. It was like, wow, he's been at Sony longer than I've been alive. I'm just like, motherfucker.
God damn it.
That means that I am like 15 years older than this person that I was sure was older than me. Anyway, moving on.
So there's Sony group, and then there's the PlayStation group, and then at some point they kind of shuffled things around to kind of have a more Western centralized portion of Sony. It sounds like from the story you linked here, Brad, he was spending a lot of time in North America or living in North America. And
I can't remember how all that Sony reorg stuff went down. Was it still in the Andrew House era that they moved leadership to California? I believe is how that went.
It was.
And then he retired, and then it was Sean Layden, and then Jim Ryan. Is that the lineage?
That is my recollection of it.
Yeah, like the key point here is he's retiring. Like they are all using the retiring language. This is not like whatever number of Jim Ryan haters there are out there saw this and was just like, oh, well, he fucked up bad, huh? But no, it seems like...
Or at least stepping down from this position voluntarily.
Like, I mean, it could be a Reggie thing where it's like, I'm retiring, but actually I'm just going to go sit on a bunch of boards somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, anybody that ascends to this level of business has got it made in terms of whatever they want to do after their main career is over. But 30 years is a long time at any company.
Yeah.
Or for a career, let alone once you're the head of a thing like this, you have certainly made enough money to not work anymore.
I am not a Jim Ryan liker. I have found him incredibly off-putting in the time that he has been head of this division and being the kind of public face of PlayStation. And I also don't think he did anything here. I think this is more a result of probably a combination of things, including, I'm guessing, him looking at the forecast for the next couple of years of the game business, which everyone seems to be doing right now, deciding whether it's worth putting up with all the bullshit that he clearly hates, which includes interacting with the people who buy his products, and deciding now's the time to get out.
Yeah, I mean,
that's my guess.
The reporting in this article from Video Games Chronicle, states PlayStation 5 is on track to be one of the best-selling PlayStation products out there, which is, I think PlayStation's in they just acquired Bungie. They're trying to, fight their way through this Microsoft acquisition and merger. The only thing I guess that's been on Jim's plate, aside from the PlayStation 5 launch through the COVID time, which, that's not what really his fault, is maybe positioning during this Microsoft merger, and maybe that's on his plate. But yeah, I don't know.
There's that really stuff. There's the Bungie acquisition. I mean, the other thing, and I don't think he started this, but he certainly shepherded it for his tenure, is the kind of rise of the network revenue at Sony. Like, the PlayStation Network and related online services have become a major business focus for them. And that has mostly been quite successful, although this recent price increase of Plus certainly has not gone down well. How that's been handled at the micro level may be questionable, but it seems like that's been very profitable for them. I don't know, it raises an interesting quandary for people in his position these days of Alex talking about not necessarily the most likable face.
No.
I got nothing against the guy, but he made some of those comments about there's the we believe in generation stuff about the backwards compatibility, which turned out to be kind of nonsense. He made some disparaging comments toward old PlayStation games. Yeah. Remember that? Remember when he essentially was sort of why would anybody want to play our old games?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think he's malicious or a terrible figure. It's more that I just think he's a very business guy that did not belong in a public-facing position like this, where you are essentially the face and the voice of the brand.
And that's the quandary that I was thinking of, and this goes all the way back to, I went to E3 press conferences in the late 90s that were just in a hotel ballroom with the executives on stage showing pie charts and bar graphs of sales data, right? People in this position weren't necessarily put in this position to be stage presences or faces or hype men or whatever. They were put there to make business decisions, right? But now with what the public facing side of the games business has become, they kind of have to be, who've been the good ones? Reggie, Jack Tretton, Iwata,
Phil Spencer.
Phil Spencer is great. Like Peter Moore, I mean, he was not head of things, but like there have been people with like excellent sort of, I don't know, stagecraft or whatever you want to call it.
And I
Jim
think
Ryan, not necessarily one of those.
Even the less good of the PlayStation people, at least in terms of like charisma, like, you know, Andrew House wasn't the most charismatic person, but when he was talking to you on a stage, it felt like he understood the products he was selling, and he also understood the audience that was there to listen to what he had to say about them.
Yeah,
Sean Layden was the same way. Like, he was not the head of that thing long enough to really make a huge lasting impression, but he never seemed like a guy that was like peevish or otherwise unpleasant to listen to or talk about this stuff. I think Jim Ryan was just the wrong guy for this position in terms of what that actually entails beyond the nitty-gritty business deal stuff.
Yeah. Yes, I don't disagree, but, you know, at the same time, like, the Sony board would be like, fucking who cares what he's like on stage as long as he is as long as he is driving growth. But I guess the jury is out.
Charisma in those levels never hurts, right? Even Nintendo has had charisma in, you know, they're like when you trot out the person who is the captain of the ship, right? Mm-hmm. It's always fun to have somebody with some charisma.
Yeah, of course it's better to have it, better. Absolutely. Like this whole thing reminded me, people were like posting pictures of Kevin Butler. Remember that whole thing?
Yes.
Like, it kind of made I generally thought that bit was pretty good, at least until it wore out its welcome. But like, it almost makes you wonder, like, why don't they have like people who are just hype people for stuff like this? But like, there's always more value in the people actually making the decisions being the ones who come out and pitch them.
Yeah.
Anyway, I guess it seems like the jury is probably out on his tenure. Like, I think it's like the Bungie acquisition and this kind of focus on live service games is going to be the thing that's going to take some more time to play out. Whether that was the right direction or not, I don't feel like current indicators are great for that. Personally, like, it feels like we've kind of run out of runway on games as a service, largely.
Well, you think we're at that? You mean there's not a lot of headroom, or
that we were like way past saturation point.
Like they're still going to do it. I mean,
they'll do it to some degree, but that was like the stated goal of bringing Bungie in, was like, hey, they can help steer other live service projects within Sony. They can help act as a steward of stuff like that. So like, there's this news out this week that Naughty Dog is like terminating the contracts of some of their contract workers early, which kind of is essentially a layoff, even though they weren't full-time staff, but they're still being let go before their original like term of work is completed. But then the news that's attached to that is that apparently that Last of Us multiplayer game is like one step away from canceled at this point.
Okay.
That it's, I think, on ice is the phrase that has been reported. I forget who. I think it was Kotaku that reported that.
Yeah.
And that thing had seemed troubled before, but like, that's like arguably Sony's most like prized first party studio, right? Doing a multiplayer game, a live service game that all of a sudden is like probably not going to happen now. Like, there's the Sega News Hyenas that was in production at Creative Assembly, which was another live service first person shooter competitive arena thing, has been canceled. Somewhat unceremoniously.
Very unceremoniously, because they just debuted that thing like less than a year ago.
Hasn't it? I think it's maybe even been in test at some point. Like, it's had private alphas or something of that nature, because I saw people talking about having played it. Creative Assembly is going to have layoffs in the wake of that project being shut down. Like, it feels like the signs for the health of the sort of games as a service market are not great at the moment.
Well, I mean, it's that stuff for sure, but I think in general, the overall health of games business seems like it is just in a very weird place right now. You know, like, it's not just live service things that are getting canceled and, you know, people being laid off from, but like, that does seem like the focus of it, because I imagine what they're running into is that they're realizing the investment in this stuff is just not going to bring the return that they were expecting initially, you know, because there is that tapering off. But in general, like, everyone seems like they are now in cut weight mode in order to hit whatever they think this recession is going to be, or whatever, even if it's just at the games level, whatever they think is coming as far as the business is concerned. And whether that actually bears out, who fucking knows? But like, it feels like a lot of things that they might have let fly in the past, they're just like, no, we're not doing that now.
Yeah, I guess that pretty much brings us right into the Epic news, that Epic is cutting 16% of its workforce.
Which is a lot of people.
So what is it,
900 people, or just under?
830 jobs is what this statement says. Yeah.
This is bonkers.
Tim Sweeney just straight up posted a memo saying, for a while now, we've been spending way more money than we earn, investing in the next evolution of Epic and growing Fortnite as a metaverse-inspired ecosystem for creators.
I hate that whole end of that sentence.
I had long been optimistic that we could power through this transition without layoffs, but in retrospect, I see that this was unrealistic.
Yeah, we know you were tweeting about it in January about how Epic was incredibly poised to deal with oncoming recession. So,
I cannot believe he is still using the word metaverse, not just in this memo, but also on Twitter still.
I think Tim Sweeney might be a little bit of a dope.
Well, I like that.
I don't know. I mean, he's built a multi-billion-dollar company. Like, he's obviously done some things right, but yes, like to still be chasing that, like,
because I'm saying current Tim Sweeney, I think, has maybe become a little bit brain poisoned by the internet because the way that guy posts and like all that dumb grandstanding around the Apple lawsuit bullshit, like it feels like that is a dude who is huffing his own supply in a significant way.
Yeah, I mean, like, who else is saying the word multiverse still? Like, it feels like it's like right behind NFT.
Metaverse,
metaverse.
Oh, did I say?
You said multiverse. But
I mean,
that's also an overused buzz term. So
everybody's saying multiverse.
Fair. But if metaverse feels like it's right behind NFT on the list of things that, like, just about everybody has realized, like, oh, this was just a bunch of smoke and mirrors. It's time to move on.
You should read his next paragraph there, because I thought this was one of the more interesting things about where they're seeing the growth in their business.
He's essentially is saying that, like, first of all, he says while Fortnite is starting to grow again, I guess I did not realize that it had plateaued at some point, but he basically is saying a lot of the growth they're seeing now is coming out of the revenue share driven creator stuff they're doing, and that obviously by necessity that's less profitable than the core Fortnite business.
But then they laid off all the people that apparently manage those relationships in that part of the business.
Yeah, I'm not clear. Well, there's two components to this, because they've also sold off Bandcamp, which they just bought. Just bought.
Before, I forgot we were going to talk about this when we were coming into the news, and as soon as it came up, I had this immediate pang of anger that I was feeling at the end of last week around that stuff. I'm fucking infuriated about what they did with that company.
Yeah, like, they bought Bandcamp and seemed to do almost nothing with it, and now have sold it off to some sort of marketing entity.
Yeah, I think their primary thing is, like, licensing.
They also, I guess they have some, is it an advertising business called Super Awesome, which I was not familiar with?
It was their in-house marketing advertising thing.
They're spending that off too. Like, I mean, what I gather from this statement is they're trying to winnow down to just people working on the core things that they think are profitable, which are Unreal Engine and Fortnite.
Yes.
And publishing. Seems to be... Let me see.
And that's fair, because they don't do a lot outside of that stuff. These other things feel kind of like dalliances more than anything else. I don't know why they bought Bandcamp. I'm still, like, racking my brains trying to figure out what they thought they were going to do with that thing. And I guess I'm glad they weren't the ones to come in and just completely fuck it up. But, like, selling to a company like that after, like, a year, maybe less even, of that, just says to me, you had no idea why you bought this thing in the first place, and as soon as you realized it wasn't a thing you could just easily turn the money machine on with, you're like, yeah, no, we're not going to do that anymore. And it's like, great, you just fucked with one of the only independent cornerstones of the music industry left. Great job.
Yeah, it sucks. Okay. Fortnite first-party development, Fortnite creator ecosystem, Rocket League, and Fall Guys, although they cut Mediatonic, the developer that made Fall Guys.
I think they came back and said, no, we didn't shut down Mediatonic. We just actually laid off like 80% of the staff. But Mediatonic still exists, if I remember correctly, which,
let's see. Services for developers, including Unreal Engine, Epic Games Store, Epic Games Publishing, Epic Online Services, and then a bunch of, like, game development tech, MetaHuman, Quixel, ArtStation, Sketchfab. Anyway, like, those are all the things they say they are now focusing or reinvesting in.
I was very worried about Harmonix.
I'm kind of amazed that they didn't get hit, but they must be working on stuff.
Well, they did lose some people, but it does not sound like it was a significant portion of that team. And the reason I was worried was that they have not done one of those Fortnite concert things in a little bit. and it had been some months. I think March was the last one, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I just assumed that they maybe weren't doing the numbers they used to, but I don't know.
I mean, they're still putting out that Rock Band DLC, though it's a pretty, let's just say there's a lot of on-disc songs that never made it to DLC that have been popping up lately. So I don't know, maybe they're not throwing as much production pipeline behind that. But, their primary focus now is supposed to be on this Fortnite stuff and the concerts and music experiences around that. And it sounds like they're still doing that, but they just haven't done one in a while. So I was wondering if they were just going to start winding that stuff down.
Yeah, it's a pretty brutal year in the games employment space.
Yeah, and it does not feel like it's over yet as far as that stuff goes.
Of course, man, this feels like ancient history now. What is even time anymore? But it's hard to remember that all the big tech layoffs were even this same year.
Mm-hmm.
That feels like 5 years ago, but the massive Facebook and Microsoft and all those layoffs. Google earlier this year, this just seems like catching up to that, basically.
Yeah, I mean, Microsoft stuff
the
even
climate
affected its games, right?
Yeah, just the general climate and the way companies are treating it.
It's this story suggests that maybe some of it was some ramping up and then contraction during the pandemic, and then
yes, and Epic has taken investment from outside parties significantly. Which they obviously took and tried to spin up new businesses with, and apparently didn't do successfully. That was kind of the word with Unity as well, with that policy that they just rushed out the door, was that they also made a lot of big investments over the last 3-4 years and now are facing a shortfall that they have to make up for.
Yeah, kind of bad bets, right? We kind of put a lot of money into this thing. It didn't go the way we couldn't keep up that level. And yeah, so I don't know. I'm no economist, but it's, obviously I hope everybody who is affected by these, and it's now a lot of people, find.
Well, and let's be clear, a lot of those, the vast majority of those people are not the people who are making those bets.
Oh, no. The people who are making those
it's never the people who make the bets that are the ones that come out bad on this.
No,
unless there's Satoru Iwata, who actually did famously cut his pay in half when Nintendo's financials came in under projections, but
I'm telling you.
If only everybody was Iwata.
The number of actual people you can call decent at the C-suite level in video games is not that high. I think Iwata was one of them.
Yes, agreed. Kind of the only thing you can say positively about this is that the severance is at least pretty good. It's 6 months of 6 months of pay and healthcare.
That's pretty good.
Which is certainly above the average by a lot.
Yeah.
But that's about it.
I mean, it still leaves, almost 900 people possibly looking for jobs.
Yes.
So in a market that that from where we report or stand feels like it's contracting. So it's not a great space to be. That is anything else on the Epic stuff or Epic / Hyenas / Jim Ryan?
No, I just wonder if anything else is coming down the pike in terms of mass layoffs at this point.
I'm just guarding myself for the rest of this year because it feels like everyone is just fucking seeing ghosts of a recession, and I don't think that's going to stop anytime soon.
And the money spigot has been turned off with the interest rates going up, so
yeah,
there will definitely be more layoffs. I mean, we saw, I think we mentioned in the kind of rundown the tombstones out there, the Embracer Group stuff. There has been,
that saga is still ongoing.
Yeah, I think we're not through a lot of this yet. Alex, not to be left out, Ubisoft. Back in
they're
the
not
news.
laying people off this time, at least, though. It's still
they already laid these people off.
Yeah.
Force
them out, shall we say?
Or force them out. What's going on? Why are former Ubisoft executives back in the news?
So, if you'll remember, obviously there was the larger sexual misconduct scandals at Ubisoft involving a number of the C-suite people and creatives, like lead creatives at Ubisoft in France and in Canada.
A lot of allegations of misconduct and sexual harassment.
Varying degrees of severity, some of them very severe. So it'd been a while since anything had really come of this, especially since a lot of these figures, again, were either forced out or left into the night from the company a couple of years ago. But so there were arrests apparently, of, or at the very least, detainments of what Liberation, the French publication, is saying 3 ex-employees and then another 2 the day after. And those include Serge Hascoët. I don't know how to pronounce that last name. I apologize.
Sure. Yeah.
I'll buy that.
And Tommy Francois, who was sort of the vice president of editorial and creative services there. Serge was the basically the head of all their like games editorial, like, you know, kind of their creative juice stuff. And, you know, they were both like the primary figures in those investigations. And so these arrests come in the wake of, I guess, what has essentially been, you know, French authorities' investigations into these things and interviews with both people who made the allegations and people who worked with them at the time. What is actually going to come of that, I have no idea, but it clearly, whatever bore out from those investigations led to them saying, we are going to, at the very least, bring you in for questioning and potentially file charges.
Yeah, I think these are the first arrests that have been made in any of these,
as far as I know,
situations,
yes.
Right? I mean, Blizzard, everything, like all the ones that have been in the news.
Yeah, a lot of these where they couldn't just bury the information, they just let people go or force them out and then tried to move on without ever really addressing that stuff again.
There was a quote here in this Game Industry Biz story from one of the plaintiff's lawyers that said, the case goes beyond individual behavior and, quote, reveals systemic sexual violence. And then Ubisoft's quote, again, these are former Ubisoft employees. They're no longer employed there, but Ubisoft says, Ubisoft has no knowledge of what has been shared and therefore can't comment.
Yeah. Well, they wouldn't even if they did, because at this point, you know, Eve's still there. The guy who more or less let these people run rampant in his company, you know, like that dude has not gone anywhere. He is still running Ubisoft. So yes, I imagine he will try to soft pedal this shit as much as he can until he no longer has a choice.
Yeah, I don't know what the
2 years ago calling for Eve said he is still getting on stages.
The man is still there, and he's still getting on a damn stage talking about video games.
I can't remember what the ownership breakdown is of Ubisoft. Like, is his family still majority
I think
owner?
So.
Because that's kind of the situation you get into with some companies like Epic, and I think Tim Sweeney is still the majority owner of Epic. Of course,
right.
Mark Zuckerberg famously still has over 50% of Facebook. So in those situations, there's only so much that can be done.
Yeah. So former execs over at Ubisoft are now arrested by French police following their, like you said, over a years long investigation.
2021, I believe, is when a lot of this stuff really started breaking, and we are coming, I think as of now, we are about 2 years from when that stuff really hit.
All right. Nintendo.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we've had a lot of these stories, Brad.
Yeah, not a cheery news week, although this one is at least not involving any human beings being harmed. Well, it still sucks, actually, when I think about it, though. This actually is like, it was inevitable. Like, this is going to happen everywhere. It's happening with 360 stuff, Xbox 360 next year. Nintendo is, but it is like, in terms of games preservation, it is like lopping off another arm of games history. Nintendo is shutting down all online services for the 3DS and Wii U, April of next year, which means that none of the online anything on those platforms will function after that. So no more playing Splatoon 1 online, for example.
Their notice says online co-op, internet rankings, and data distribution. Do you know what that means? Does that mean like downloading DLC or updates or patches?
Yeah, no. Like that, you will explicitly, for now, still be able to download and patch games that you own. But they actually, even there, it's in the FAQ. Will it still be possible to download update data or purchase software? They actually say for the foreseeable future, it will still be possible. So even that, who knows?
What is data distribution? Is that sharing?
I don't know. That could be anything.
It feels like a catch-all for whatever they need it to be.
Could be a pretty broad term for who knows what. it's not that many games. Like the Wii U was not a super successful or long-lived system. Splatoon is kind of the big one I can think of on there. I mean, there are... How am I going to play Dr. Luigi? 2-player.
I don't know.
After this.
You're not.
What am I going to do?
Cry.
I do love that the last question in this FAQ is explicitly about street passing.
You gotta know.
Street Pass apparently is entirely peer-to-peer, so Street Pass will function for basically indefinitely. Spot passing, which I don't even remember what spot passing is.
I don't know.
But spot passing uses online communications, so spot pass stuff will stop working on the 3DS, but you will be able to street pass, hopefully forever.
My favorite part of that fact is what's still going to be around? It is still possible to use online servers for the following software, but that may also end at some point in the future, and their games are Pokemon Bank and Poke Transporter, which are...
those aren't even games. I think those are just features within some Pokemon titles.
So
it's extremely limited stuff.
Gotta get to there's going to be a run on the Poke Bank. Get there.
Yeah. I looked around, it's not a ton of games. Like Kid Icarus Uprising is another 3DS game that seems somewhat notable that you won't be able to play online anymore. But it's just a bummer when stuff like this happens.
Yep.
On the other hand, maybe would not be shocked if people find a way to make that stuff work in an alternative fashion at some point.
Oh, it'll happen. It just may not happen for some time.
In a world where people are playing Matrix Online actively to this day and stuff like that.
I don't know. Nintendo doesn't like
weird.
That stuff.
No, they don't. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
If I may,
yeah, please do
a brief interjection here. Going back to some of the Bandcamp stuff. So I just saw this tweet going around. I had known that apparently once the Song Trader stuff was announced, so Bandcamp does have a unionized employee base, and there was some uncomfort around the fact that Song Trader was not really being super transparent about who was going to come over and who wasn't. Based on this tweet from Ethan Gatch, which is based on a thing from the Bandcamp United Union, basically a bunch of Bandcamp people have been locked out of systems since this thing was announced.
Just today?
I think it may have been right around the time that the announcement was made.
Oh, okay.
So this is apparently fucking up their entire workflow, which is potentially has an impact on stuff like Bandcamp Fridays, which is the first Friday of every month where they give all the proceeds of sales from that day to the artists and don't take their own cut. And now the union is now in the process of trying to bargain with Epic over layoffs and severance and things like that, and it is a gigantic mess.
Well, silver lining, and I know this is a very thin silver lining, at least they have a union to bargain.
They do, but yeah. I have a feeling that both Epic and Song Trader are probably going to try and subvert that as much as possible in whatever the fuck it is they're planning to do here. Tim Sweeney, you are my enemy. I can't tell you how deathly serious I take shit like this, because there is almost nothing left of value for the music industry like this still around.
Yeah, Bandcamp was cool. I mean, I shouldn't say was, it still is cool. I don't want to assume it's over or whatever, but before it got bought, Bandcamp was extremely cool as businesses go.
Absolutely. I am fucking heated about this, and I'm going to be for some time.
Let's buy Bandcamp. Who has it?
Song Trader.
But are they the top of that food chain?
They are now.
Or there's somebody owns Song Trader. Oh, Trader without the E, right?
Without the E, yeah.
Yeah. That's not a good sign.
No, never is.
No, they are independent.
They are independent. Okay.
If you want to get somebody at Song Trader on the phone, maybe we can make this deal happen.
Gross. Yeah, I don't know. I would say best of luck to everybody affected by all of this, but at this point, it's implied, and there's just too many people, and it feels very hollow to say. That is the news for this week. Yeah, bummer news week. Thanks, Brad.
It's not his fault. He didn't make
the news. Make the news better.
Don't shoot the messenger, man.
Come on.
Oh, by the way, also some BioWare people who were laid off in the last round of layoffs are now apparently going to sue BioWare because they're not getting their full severance.
Cool. Saw that come up. They should do that.
It's all going great here in the labor market in games.
Mm-hmm.
I hear everything is smooth.
Yep.
Well-oiled capitalist machine.
Burn it all down.
That is going to do it for the news. Hope you're doing well out there. We have a podcast which has an email address, and that email address is podcast@nextlander.com. Podcast@nextlander.com. Brad Shoemaker, are there any fun, cheery emails in the email bag that can tales of happiness and delight and the pieces all fitting together neatly? Or maybe even like, what's your favorite ice cream flavor? Or would you rather be a dog with cat legs or a cat with dog legs?
So you're looking for animals?
Anything.
Kevin from Salmon Arm, British Columbia.
Okay.
Would you guys ever allow a squirrel to come and go freely from your home?
Inside, outside?
That's the entirety of the email, so open to interpretation, I suppose.
No.
If it was a garage, I might consider it. Not into my actual home. Those things have claws. They like to scratch on things.
Yeah, like if I started throwing out a bunch of qualifiers like it was the world's most well-behaved squirrel, and it promised not to go in the house,
like do
then maybe
its business. No,
but yes, if we're just talking a squirrel and it's just you can take it or leave it, I guess that seems dangerous.
I love squirrels. Don't get me wrong; they're
as tempting as it is.
They're adorable creatures, and I enjoy watching them frolic. But I'm not letting one into my house unless I know it's housebroken.
Having maybe some kind of squirrel door into an enclosed area.
Oh, that's just a big squirrel feeder at that point.
I like squirrels.
Yeah.
You know what else I like? Chipmunks. I saw some chipmunks last time I was home.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get as many chipmunks as squirrels. Squirrels, while I think they're adorable and they're a fun part of nature, are also pains in the ass. And they could I feel like when you get one squirrel, that squirrel's going to go out and tell its squirrel friends that have, and I mean, that you're going to get two squirrels, and those two squirrels are going to tell their friends, and then.
And so on, and so on, and so on. Let me tell you about groundhogs.
Yeah?
Cherubic little guys.
They do waddle a bit.
Puffy.
Yeah.
Love them.
Not like a squirrel.
Yeah, except
I'm also not letting that groundhog into my house.
Fair.
Except when they dig under the house.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, don't let a squirrel dig under your house.
Yeah.
Or a groundhog.
Or anything, really.
Yeah.
Yes, tunnels under the home, not a good thing.
Or gophers. Brad, any other emails?
Yeah, I'll read one more here from Dan. Vinny mentioned recently, casually, that he encountered the biggest spider he'd ever seen in his life.
Hell yeah, I did.
I'm hoping for some more details. Did he run away from the spider? Did he kill it? It's too terrifying to squish a spider of that size, so how did he dispose of it? Personally, when I see a large spider, I get out the vacuum as it's an effective way of eliminating it while keeping a safe distance.
Oh, but then that spider's just like alive in the vacuum bag, or I guess if you have one of those bagless ones, like the Dyson.
I can tell you from experience.
Wait, does the spider die?
They do not survive the vacuuming process.
Is it like does it come through a
Do you really want the details?
Kinda. Like, is the fan...
Look, if it doesn't get mangled on the way through the hose, eventually that thing is just going to die of the trauma of it.
Just being vacuumed up.
Yeah.
I need to,
Also, there's no food in there for it, so if it does survive the vacuuming process, where's it going to go?
Oh, I just imagine it try and crawl out. I don't know, it just sounds nightmarish. Sounds cruel. I don't want to think
That's why I don't do it.
Yeah.
I don't do that. I'm very much put it in under a glass, slide a little coaster or something underneath, and then fling it outside. That's my general path.
I am a cup and a piece of paper kind of person, though I have a device that I'm holding up to Alex and Brad.
Oh yeah, I see that. It's wow.
Whoa.
And it grabs. It's for.
Is that what that's supposed to be for? Because that looks like a thing that maybe goes up the booty.
I mean, you use it for what you need to do, but it's designed.
Okay, well, that's what I need.
Does that not kill the bug? That seems like that would
No, these are very soft bristles on the front, and so it kind of gets around the bug. It's basically this thing, a wand that has very soft bristles at the end, and when you pull the trigger on the handle, it expands out and then clamps down on the bug, and then you let it outside and it runs away.
I'll be a judge of exactly how soft those bristles are.
Listen, you want to borrow it? Just you can keep it if you need, but they're pretty.
Call it the
soft
French tickler.
It's basically like a toothbrush bristles, long toothbrush bristles at the end. Anyway,
my parents have a bug catcher that I've reached a point in my life where I don't like killing bugs if I can help it.
Yeah.
And It's like it's a big clear hard plastic enclosure on a wand.
Yeah.
With a magnifying glass on the top and a little switch that slides like a trap door in and out.
Ooh.
So you just put the clear domed part over the bug.
Yep.
And also if it's a big ugly spider, you get a very big magnified view of that spider running around, which is super creepy. But then you just slowly slide the trap door under the bug, and then it is enclosed in this thing, and then you just carry it outside.
I tried to get the identify it, and it was either like it didn't get the last species thing on it, but it's either a funnel weaver or a grass something, but it was big, and
funnel weaver's not good, is it?
I don't know.
I thought isn't that one pretty bad? Or maybe I'm
define bad.
Maybe I'm
like to
poisonous.
Humans?
I'm thinking of something else.
I just assume any spider that might bite you, it's not good.
When I look,
am I thinking of the funnel web?
Might be thinking of the funnel web.
Is that the one in Australia that's like super, super bad?
Oh, that does sound familiar. Are there orb weavers, or are those from Grounded? Maybe that's from Grounded.
Let's stop talking about spiders.
Okay.
Yeah.
Don't
anyway,
have to tell me twice.
I didn't get it. It moved on. Hopefully, it gets the crickets that are down here. So, because they're super noisy. Any other emails, Brad?
I don't know. Do you want another one?
Yeah, let's take one more.
I can take one more.
How about this one from Josh in Colorado? What's the point of film grain in games? I've never understood the appeal.
Making it look more like movies?
I mean, yes, that is definitely the point. What was the first game with film grain?
The one that stands out to me the most is Mass Effect, but there's got to be stuff before there.
It can't have been the first one, but I absolutely remember that game coming out, and like the film grain and the lens flares together were just like, oh man, they were trying to make this look like 70s science fiction.
Yeah.
So hard.
I don't know why Starfield has it.
Yeah, it's weird. These days it feels like a crapshoot if a game's going to have film grain or not.
Like, I kind of understood why Mass Effect had it.
Yeah,
it felt they were going for that vibe.
Because they were also doing like that Vangelis-ass soundtrack. Like they were going for a whole aesthetic package in Mass Effect, and now it just feels like a given game might have it or might not.
Okay, so I'm just looking. I mean, this is not definitive history here because I am going off a wiki, though it is the Giant Bomb wiki, which I consider to be something of an authority.
I too am on giantbomb.com at the moment.
And the film grain category, the earliest game that is currently listed on this wiki page is the 1999 survival horror game Nocturne.
Okay.
And then after that, it's like Silent Hill 2, Fatal Frame, Kung Fu Chaos?
Okay.
All right. Manhunt? Yes, absolutely. Fatal Frame 2. Don't know what Dead Man's Hand is. Don't remember it. Beautiful Joe 2 apparently had it. Indigo Prophecy definitely had it. I reviewed that game. The Suffering Ties That Bind. Call of Cthulhu, Dark Corners of the Earth. The movies. Well, duh. Condemned.
Oh, Condemned.
Hotel Dusk. Yes. Where is Mass Effect on this list? I assume it must be on here somewhere. Have I reached 2008 yet? Yes, I have. Mass Effect 2 is on here. I don't see Mass Effect 1 on here. So maybe this isn't the definitive list. But it is. These are all games that have it, and there are ones that predate Mass Effect.
I don't mind it. I usually don't mind it in games as long as you can turn it off. And they give you an option for it. But
still to this day have a 360 copy of Condemned on my shelf from launch of the 360 that I have never played.
Oh, have you never played Condemned?
Never played Condemned.
It's a hell of a game, yeah.
Yeah, it's all right.
I don't think it's backwards compatible, is it?
I don't know.
I quite enjoyed Condemned. That's gonna do it for the emails.
It is.
We have
going to do it.
That is going to do it.
Oh, there's Mass Effect. It's just they have it listed as Mass Effect Legendary Edition from 2021.
I see.
But yes, Mass Effect does in fact have it.
It's a good game. Hell of a game. Hell of a fun.
Oh, I just have to correct myself. Condemned is backwards compatible.
Okay,
great.
Good.
All these corrections coming in.
For as long as I have an Xbox with a disk drive to put it in.
Your days are numbered. That is podcast@nextlander.com. Podcast@nextlander.com for the emails. We got a bunch of stuff going on over on patreon.com/nextlander, not the least of which is Scary Movie Month. Mm-hmm. We have Ghostwatch currently up, and we will be talking about the Babadook, Mr. Babadook himself, next week. Australia's
full
own
schedule.
Babadook.
Full schedule is up there if you want to see what else we got. We got Suspiria, we got Hausu, and we got Train to Busan also on that list coming up.
Go check out that stuff over at patreon.com/Nextlander. We'll have a new and Never Been a Better podcast going up, I believe, next week. That should be Jeff Bacalar and Austin Walker guesting in on that. We're going to record that hopefully tomorrow. Go over there and can find a tier that is right for you. Maybe it's the Ramblecast tier. Maybe it's with the Watchcast. Maybe it's the Mysterious Benefactor tier. If it is the Mysterious Benefactor tier, then you get your name read on this here show. That's the tier, and I'm going to read the Mysterious Benefactors right now. Starting with Ryan Waterman, RRE, John Richardson, Vornak, Infelicitus Rips, Kelly F., Brian Lucier, Skywarp, John Hubbard, Sean Miller, Brad's Mid-Sized Hoodoo Voodoo, Evan Cook, Mark Wilhelm, Jerry Lee, Deidre reporting live at a spooky house, Gary Pejke, Robert Fisher, John McInnes, Bunny Fiend, Peter Reardon, Thomas Lynn, Jad Rita, Statics, Andrew Jackson, Mega Brains, Razgriz 2, Brian Murphy, Randy Duax, Andrew Tiebkin, Alex Wu, It's Me JP, Matt Clements Jr., Edward Chick, Andrew Slosky, Steve Lynn, Matthew Herrig, David Campos, and Tyler Treese. Those are the Mysterious Benefactors for this week. Thank you so much for supporting us over the decades and centuries of Nextlander, and thanks to everyone for supporting us, whether it's over at Patreon and whatever tier you decide works for you, over on Twitch, over on YouTube, listening to this here podcast. Thanks everybody so much. Like we said before, Remnant 2, we continue with Remnant 2. I'm enjoying it very much. We'll have that. We had that this week. We'll have more of it. We've got a grab bag going on this week, along with probably Assassin's Creed on Friday. Probably Assassin's Creed. You could pick up. I have a hard save from after the prologue. Might be a good place to pick up early in the story, but past the prologue, if you want to see what that game is about. A couple of other things I'm curious to check out, maybe on the grab bag, that Lamplighters League. I'm curious about that game. That's out of Paradox, right? Mm-hmm. Publishing that one?
I think so.
Curious about that. Alex, if you want to check out that Weapon of Choice, the Fights in Tight Spaces on the grab bag, I'd watch some of that. I like watching you play that game.
Got that Forza, too. We can play some of that Forza.
Some Forza, some of them vroom cars.
Should we play multiplayer Forza?
Oh, man.
Let me just actually make sure we can stream Forza, because there is the review embargo, but then there's also the other thing.
Right. That's true. That game, well, I think it will be out early.
I think that's right.
Yeah.
With the premium thing? Premium thingy, Bob?
Did you see that Red Dead Redemption got a 60 frames per second update on the PS5 today?
I did see that.
I don't think I'll have time to. I wouldn't want to just start that game from the beginning. I think I'd want to get some ways into it past all the long intro stuff, but that's kind of crazy. I think that's the only version of that game that runs at that frame rate now. Even on the Series X, it doesn't do that. That's like, people were just like, holy shit, what?
Work's being done somewhere.
We are clear to stream Forza, so.
Okay. Yeah, maybe some racing.
Yeah.
Race it up. Cars. You can join all of us and all of you and everybody for that this week. I want to thank everybody again for checking out this podcast. Thank you, Alex Navarro.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brad Shoemaker. Mm-hmm. And we'll be back with more next week. See ya.